eating well means eating foods of wide variety. Choose a lot of different foods, don't settle on a few. Hey, choose a balanced diet if you want what's good for you. And don't forget that exercise completes the recipe. So eat well and be well, that's the key. Eat well and be well, that's the key.
Oh, excuse me while I finish this. It's one of my favorite foods. One of yours too, I'll bet. That's good. You know what? It's not only good to eat, but it's good for me. Yeah, corn has very important energy-giving nutrients in it. Of course, you know, all foods give us energy, but these foods have special and rich energy nutrients in them. Bread, milk, bananas, beets, apples. They don't seem related, do they? They even belong to different food groups. They all provide different nutrients to our bodies. But they have one nutrient in common: carbohydrate. And it's very important for us. Of course, most people know that corn, and potatoes, spaghetti, and breads, what we call the starch foods, are good sources of carbohydrate. But they don't realize that bananas and beets and milk provide carbohydrate too. And so does this sugar. You see, the fact is, there are simple and complex carbohydrates. Sugar is a simple carbohydrate. There are several kinds of sugar. They come in different foods. There's the sugar that's in foods like milk and fruit, some vegetables. And there's the sugar in the form of this refined sugar, or honey, or molasses, which is added to other foods to sweeten them. Our bodies react differently to these different kinds of sugar. The sugar found in the banana comes along with other nutrients. And because the body must process it, it gives us energy over a period of time. Now this other sugar, the refined sugar, is processed outside your body from sugar cane or sugar beets, or even by the bees themselves when they make honey. So while providing quick energy because it's absorbed into your system rapidly, this kind of sugar can create problems for you. Two of them. One, it can cause tooth decay in young teeth. You surely don't want that. And two, it adds extra calories to the foods it's added to. This can make you gain weight if you don't exercise enough to use up that calorie energy. So when I have a choice between this and this, I choose this. You know why? Simple. It's sweet and delicious. The other kind of carbohydrate, the complex carbohydrate, is starch, which the body processes into a form of sugar. And so starch also gives us energy. You know what? That leads me to a little song. A little song about carbohydrates. Well, let me tell you all about carbohydrates and what a great job they do. They taste really yummy, and once in your tummy, they become fuel for you. Well, spaghetti and bread and milk, it said, are carbohydrates true. Like gas in a car, carbohydrate goes far to help you do what you want to do. But now let me add an important note if you want to keep your body slim. All those carbos that you don't use will turn to fat within. So be sure to eat enough, but not too much of rye and wheat and oats, bananas and rice and hot popcorn and some kind of food called groats. Well, each of these foods is a different kind, but they have a lot in common, you see, because all of them have lots of carbohydrate, and that means energy. But now let's add an important note if you want to keep your tummy flat. Well, all that energy that you don't use will mostly turn to fat. Now carbohydrates can be found in many of the foods we eat. They come in foods as sugar and starch and give us energy and heat. But when I say sugar, I don't mean sugar that comes in candies or sweets. I want the kind that we happily find in peaches and milk and beets. Well, let me tell you all about carbohydrates and what a great job they do. They taste really yummy, and once in your tummy, they become fuel for you. Whoa, whoa, now they become fuel for you. Well, there's a little song about carbohydrates. And now, I'm going to tell you what the body does to the sugar and starch we eat, how they become a form of energy. When you hear this, you'll realize how amazing our bodies are, how they make use of what we feed it so that we can be healthy and energetic. First, during digestion, the carbohydrates provided by sugar and starch are turned into another form of sugar called glucose. Glucose. It's the glucose that provides us with energy. And it also helps us keep our bodies at their normal temperature of 98.6 degrees by providing heat. You know that heat is a form of energy. So I think of glucose like the fuel that makes a car move and the oil that keeps the heater warming our house. Now I'm going to show you an energetic exercise and then a fun food. They'll both help you understand the relationship of the carbohydrates you eat to the energy you need. Marathon runners. You recognize them? Well, that's an exercise that takes an enormous amount of energy. And actually, youngsters your age shouldn't do marathon running because it heats up small bodies too much. So leave the marathoning till you're a little older. And here's the food. Pasta. Now what's pasta got to do with marathon runners, I hear you saying? You see, the grain spaghetti is made from is a rich source of carbohydrate. Try and remember what I said before the film, right? I said that the body turns carbohydrates into energy-giving glucose, a form of sugar, which provides our bodies with energy. It's good, long-lasting energy. Now, what do you think happens if you stuff yourself with a lot of spaghetti and don't run a marathon, or don't do any sort of hard exercise? What happens to all that extra glucose you won't be using up, like gas in a car that isn't going anywhere? Well, your body takes it through another process and turns the glucose into glycogen. That's Glycogen. And that's long storage energy. One day, when your body has to work extra hard, it'll call on that long storage energy called glycogen, and presto magico, it'll turn it back into glucose. And there it is, ready for you to use. I know it's a little complicated, but what I really want is for you to realize how remarkable your body is and why you should be proud of it and feed it right. Look, a few of my young friends have drawn pictures to illustrate the carbohydrate story. They're going to explain these pictures to you in their own words.
Here's a girl who's eating her carbohydrates, and she is running, so she stays fit and doesn't turn into fat.
And then there's a boy who is eating the same thing, but he just sits down and watches TV and gets fat because he doesn't use up the energy, and he needs to use up the energy.
This is another girl who eats spaghetti, and she decided to go running and use up all that energy, and she won in a race.
Thanks, pals. Actually, you can store about 1 pound of glycogen and it won't show on you, but more than that will show. Because in order to be stored, your body processes the glycogen into fat. That's right, fat. Now, each one of us has a desirable weight. Your doctor or the school nurse can tell you what weight is healthiest for you at your height. A lot of extra weight can make you more tired when you work and play. It'll keep you from looking your best, and it may lead to health problems later on in life. Not bad. So eat in moderation and exercise. And don't store a lot of long-term energy as fat. Get your energy on a day-to-day basis, friends, with a well-balanced diet. One way to be sure you're getting it is to eat 4 servings a day from the bread and cereal group. You'll get much of the carbohydrate you need from the grain in that group. And you'll get fiber, which is so important in carrying the nutrients through your system. That gets us back to spaghetti, because spaghetti is made from grain. So, for all you spaghetti lovers, and who isn't, right? Here's how spaghetti gets to be spaghetti. was fun, wasn't it? Spaghetti, as you've now seen, is just one of the many shapes in which you can eat pasta. And pasta is made from flour, which is made from wheat. In the United States, Kansas, right in the heartland of our country, could be called wheatland. It grows more wheat than any other state. This is a stalk of wheat. Wheat has kernels, or seeds, that are the grain of the wheat. It's ground into flour, and this flour is the basis of bread, the world's most widely eaten food. Now, look at this old fella here. This guy never heard of grain, let alone the importance of carbohydrates in his diet. Human beings have been on Earth for 2.5 million years. That's lots of years. Until 12,000 years ago, they were nomadic. That means families didn't live in one place. They moved to wherever they could find food. And then, the most important thing in the history of humankind happened between 10,000 and 8,000 BC. Can you guess what it was? Yep, the discovery of farming. The world of farming was safer, and the diet people ate was better. And central to this diet was bread, because the people had grain, and they'd learned to grind it into flour. Bread has been called the staff of life. Now you know why. It's the world's most widely eaten food, and it's almost as varied as there are countries that grow their own grain. Because the kind of bread people eat in different countries depends on what grain crop they can raise most economically. Look, here's pita bread, which is a typical bread in Middle Eastern countries. It's made of wheat. Look at all the shapes and sizes bread comes in. There's a bagel, here's an egg twist, there's a handsome wheat loaf, and here's our friend, the Mexican tortilla. It's made with corn flour, because corn's the important grain crop in Mexico. So, you see how breads reflect the grain crop of the country they come from? For instance, these Chinese rice cakes. Well, they're made from rice, because rice is a major crop in China. It grows differently than other grains. Look at the wet fields it started in. And those are called rice paddies. Then,